You ever have one of those neighbors who seems too friendly? The kind who waves every time you step outside, insists you call him by his first name even though you barely know him, and always has some story that sounds just a little too good to be true? That was Darren. I moved into the neighborhood about a year ago. Quiet cul-de-sac, decent rent, nothing fancy. Darren lived 2 houses down. Mid-40s, always in basketball shorts, usually holding a beer even at noon. At first I thought he was harmless, chatty, maybe a little lonely. He'd brag about knowing people in high places and drop names like he was best friends with celebrities. None of it ever added up, but I wasn't about to call him out. One Saturday morning, I was hauling groceries inside when he strolled over, sunglasses on, grinning like he owned the street. "Hey man," he said, pointing at the bags in my arms. "You got way too much to carry. Should have just asked me for a ride. My car's yours anytime." I laughed it off. People say things like that, but they don't really mean it. Except a week later, I actually needed one. My car was in the shop, and I had a job interview across town. Public transport would have taken forever. I was stressing out when Darren spotted me pacing the driveway. "What's up, champ?" he called. I explained my car situation. Before I could even finish, he snapped his fingers like it was nothing. "Bro, just take mine. Keys are in the cup holder. Don't sweat it." I hesitated. Borrowing sugar? Sure. Borrowing a car? That's different. But he looked so casual about it, like he'd done this a million times. "You sure?" I asked. "Positive," he said, flashing that lazy grin. "It's basically your car now." So I did it. I slid into his shiny black sedan, a little too shiny, like it had just rolled off the lot. Leather seats, tinted windows, barely a scratch. I remember thinking, damn, this is nicer than I expected. The engine purred, smooth as silk. For the first half hour, everything was fine. I even started relaxing, imagining telling Darren how much I appreciated the favor. Then the flashing blue lights appeared in my rearview mirror. My stomach dropped. The officer walked up slowly, hand near his holster. "License and registration." It's not my car," I stammered. "It's my neighbor's. He let me borrow it." The cop's eyes narrowed. He leaned down, scanned the VIN on the dashboard, then stepped back. His hand went to his radio. "This vehicle," he said carefully, "was reported stolen 3 weeks ago." My mouth went dry. "What?" I whispered. That's when it hit me. Darren's big grin, the casual toss of the keys, the way he never seemed to actually drive that car himself. I wasn't just borrowing my neighbor's car. I was sitting behind the wheel of a crime scene. And suddenly, it was my name the police were writing down. The cop's words rattled in my skull like a gunshot. "Reported stolen? 3 weeks ago." My palms went slick against the steering wheel. "Step out of the vehicle," he ordered. I opened my mouth to protest, but one look at his hand resting on his holster shut me up. I moved slowly, my legs shaky, my voice cracking as I muttered, "Officer." I swear I didn't know. He didn't care. He cuffed me right there on the side of the road while traffic slowed, drivers craning their necks to get a good look at the idiot being hauled away. The metal bit into my wrists as he recited my rights. At the station, they stuck me in a windowless room that smelled like stale coffee and bleach. A buzzing fluorescent light hummed above me, flickering like it might die any second. My heart thudded so loud it drowned out my thoughts. After what felt like an hour, 2 detectives walked in. One older, gray at the temples, calm but sharp-eyed. The other younger, with the kind of energy that made you feel like he was ready to pounce. The older one slid a folder onto the table. "So," he began, voice steady, "you want to tell us why you were driving a stolen vehicle?" I told the officer. "I borrowed it," I said quickly. "From my neighbor, Darren." He lives 2 houses down from me. He said I could use it. I didn't know. How could I know? The younger detective snorted. Classic story. It's not mine, it's my neighbor's. You expect us to buy that? I can prove it, I insisted, my voice desperate. He gave me the keys. Check with him. He'll tell you. The older detective leaned back, studying me like he was trying to read the truth in the lines of my face. What's your neighbor's last name? My stomach sank. I didn't know. Darren was just Darren. I never asked. I faltered. The younger detective smirked. Convenient. No, listen. I can show you where he lives. He's real. He's right there on my street. Please. The two detectives exchanged a look. The older one finally sighed. All right. Sit tight. They left me alone in that freezing room with my pulse hammering in my ears. Every minute stretched into 5. My mind raced. What if Darren wasn't home? What if he denied everything? What if he set me up? When the door opened again, the older detective's face was unreadable. He placed a photo on the table in front of me. Is this your neighbor? I leaned forward and froze. It was Darren's face. No mistake. Same grin, same sunglasses. But underneath, bold black letters. Darren Miller, wanted for fraud, grand theft auto, and identity theft. The room tilted. My throat went dry. I hadn't borrowed a neighbor's car. I'd borrowed a fugitive's bait. I couldn't look away from the photo. Darren's grin seemed different now. Mocking, cruel, like he'd been laughing at me the entire time. The younger detective leaned forward, tapping the picture with his finger. That's your neighbor, right? You know who this is? He's been running scams across 3 counties. And now you're sitting here driving one of his stolen cars. You better start explaining why. My mouth went dry. I told you I didn't know. I thought he was just a regular guy. He lives 2 doors down from me. He's got a house, a mailbox, everything. I swear to God, I thought he was legit. The older detective finally spoke, his tone measured but sharp. Listen, people like Darren don't just hand over keys to strangers. If you're connected to him, we need to know how. Because right now, it looks like you're his accomplice. Accomplice. The word stabbed through me like ice. I'm not. I shouted louder than I meant to. My voice cracked, raw from panic. I've never stolen anything in my life. I work a 9 to 5. I pay my bills. I barely even talk to the guy. He offered. I just needed a ride, that's it. The younger detective scoffed. Sure, just a good Samaritan fugitive lending you his ride. Happens all the time. The older one shot him a look, then slid the photo closer to me. When's the last time you saw him? I swallowed hard. Yesterday. He was mowing his lawn. We talked about the weather. That's it. The older detective scribbled something in his notebook, then stood. All right, we're going to check your story. If you're telling the truth, we'll know. But if you're lying, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. They left me in that humming room again, hands trembling, stomach churning. My mind flashed back to every odd detail about Darren. The way he always had wads of cash, but no job, the cars that rotated in his driveway, the nights I heard engines revving at 2 a.m. How had I been so blind? An hour crawled by. My thoughts spiraled. What if he ran because of me? What if lending me that car was part of some bigger scheme? The door slammed open. Both detectives entered, faces tight. The older one dropped a folder on the table with a thud. Your neighbor's house, he said flatly, is empty. Stripped clean. He's gone. The younger detective leaned in, his voice low, almost accusing. Funny timing, isn't it? You borrow his car, he disappears. Makes me wonder if he planned it with you. I felt my chest seize up. My voice was barely a whisper. He set me up. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I realized Aaron's grin wasn't just mocking. It was a goodbye. The second those words left my mouth, "He set me up?" The younger detective smirked like he'd caught me in a lie. "Convenient story," he said. "Your buddy skips town, leaves you holding the bag, and suddenly you're the victim? Come on, we've heard it all before." My chest tightened. "I'm not his buddy. I barely know the guy." The older detective leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his voice quieter but heavier. "You said he offered you the car. Why you? You barely knew him, by your own admission. Why didn't he lend it to a friend, a relative, someone he trusted?" "I don't know." I blurted out, panic scraping my throat. "Maybe because I was desperate. My car's in the shop. I needed a ride. He saw an opportunity. Maybe I was just convenient." The younger one snorted. "Yeah, real convenient. You get caught behind the wheel of a stolen car while he disappears. Almost like you were the distraction." The word distraction made my stomach flip. My mind replayed everything. Darren's grin, the casual way he said, "It's basically your car now," the way he insisted the keys were just sitting in the cup holder. He hadn't even hesitated. It hadn't been generosity. It had been a setup. But the detectives weren't buying it. They kept firing questions. "How long have you known him? Did he ever offer you money? Did you know about the other vehicles he stole?" I kept shaking my head, the same answers over and over until my voice was hoarse. "I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know." Finally, the older detective sighed and left the room, leaving me alone with the younger one. The silence was suffocating. He leaned across the table, his voice low and sharp. "You're looking at charges, you understand that? Possession of stolen property, maybe accessory. And if you're lying about not knowing him, you're in for a world of pain." I sat frozen, my breath shallow, every nerve in my body screaming. This wasn't just about Darren anymore. My life, my job, my freedom was dangling over a cliff because of one stupid decision to trust a neighbor. The door creaked open again. The older detective returned, holding a thin file. He placed it on the table, opened it, and slid a sheet of paper toward me. "This is your statement," he said. "Everything you told us. You sign it. It becomes official. If we find out you're lying," he didn't finish. "He didn't have to." I stared at the paper. My hand shook so badly the pen almost slipped from my grip. For a split second, I wondered if Darren had planned this exact moment. Me sitting under buzzing lights, begging strangers to believe I wasn't part of his game. And that's when I noticed something on the sheet. A small detail I hadn't caught before. The license plate number of the stolen car. It didn't match the one I drove. My breath caught. Darren hadn't just set me up. He'd switched cars. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. I leaned closer, reading the plate number again and again. No, there was no mistake. The digits on the paper were different from the ones I had memorized in the rearview mirror during that awful ride. "Wait," I croaked, pointing at the document. "This isn't the car I was driving." The younger detective rolled his eyes. "Nice try." "No, I'm serious. Look, I remember the plate. I was staring at it when the cop pulled me over. It doesn't match this one. That means—" I paused, my pulse racing. "That means Darren had more than one stolen car." The older detective froze mid-step. Slowly, he leaned over, checking the numbers himself. His jaw tightened. He didn't say anything, but the younger detective's smirk slipped just a little. "You're telling us," the older one said carefully, "that the car you were driving isn't the one reported stolen 3 weeks ago?" "Yes," I said, almost shouting with relief. "That's what I've been saying. I didn't know. He must have rotated them. I swear, I just took the one he pointed me to." For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw a flicker of doubt in their eyes. Not enough to free me, but enough to keep me breathing. The older detective closed the file and muttered, "We need to check this." He left the room again, this time brisker, leaving me with the younger one, who was suddenly quieter. Minutes dragged like hours. My head spun. If Darren had multiple stolen cars, how deep did this go? Was he part of a ring? Was the entire neighborhood just a front for whatever scheme he was running? When the older detective finally returned, he wasn't empty-handed. He had photos, grainy surveillance stills, timestamps across the bottom. Darren's face was in every one, smug as ever, standing next to different cars, 3, 4 maybe more. He tossed them on the table in front of me. "Looks like you might be telling the truth," he admitted. "But that doesn't clear you. You were still caught driving stolen property." My brief relief shattered. "But you see it, right?" I begged. "He's using people. He probably knew I'd get caught. It buys him time to disappear." The older detective's silence told me I wasn't wrong. Finally, he said, "We're putting out a bolo. Be on the lookout for Darren. But until we sort this out, you're not going anywhere." The younger detective leaned in, his voice low. "So here's the deal, neighbor boy. You help us catch him. Maybe we cut you a break. You keep playing dumb, you take the fall." My stomach twisted. I wasn't a cop. I wasn't a spy. I was just some guy who borrowed the wrong set of keys. But now I realized Darren hadn't just set me up. He'd left me with a choice: take the blame or become bait. The word bait echoed in my head long after the detectives left me alone again. My stomach churned. I wasn't built for this. I wasn't some undercover hero who could trick a career criminal. I was just a guy who needed a ride. But when they came back, the older detective laid it out flat. "Here's the situation. Darren knows you. He's talked to you, trusted you enough to hand you a car. If he resurfaces, you're the one he'll reach out to. That makes you useful." Useful. The way he said it made me feel less like a person and more like a pawn on a chessboard. I shook my head. "You want me to what? Call him? Invite him over? He's not an idiot. He'll smell a setup in 2 seconds." The younger detective leaned across the table, voice sharp. "Then make sure he doesn't. You're either in this with us, or we treat you like you're in it with him. Your choice." My heart pounded. Either way, I was trapped. That night, they let me go home, but not without conditions. They took my phone, replaced it with a monitored one. They made me sign papers, agreeing to cooperate. And they left me with a warning: if Darren contacts you, we'll know. Don't get clever. Walking back into my house felt surreal. Everything looked the same: the couch, the dishes in the sink, the faint hum of my fridge. But it wasn't the same world anymore. Every shadow outside the window felt like a threat. Every creak in the walls made me jump. I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch with the burner phone in my hand, staring at it like it might explode. I replayed every conversation I'd had with Darren. His smirk, his lazy jokes, the way he always seemed like he was waiting for me to ask a favor. And then, around 2 a.m., the phone buzzed. Unknown number. My blood froze. I almost dropped the phone. The message was short. "Need a favor. Meet tomorrow. Same spot." I didn't have to ask who it was. Darren was back. I stared at the glowing screen until the words blurred. "Need a favor. Meet tomorrow. Same spot." Every instinct screamed at me to smash the phone, pack a bag, and disappear. But I knew better. The cops were probably watching already. If I ignored Darren, they'd think I was protecting him. If I met him, I risked walking straight into his game again. The next morning, I sat in the precinct's cramped conference room while the detectives circled me like vultures. "This is it," the younger one said, pacing. "He trusts you. We'll wire you up, send backup. You keep him talking long enough, we close the net." I clench my fists. "And if he figures it out?" If he realizes I'm setting him up? The older detective met my eyes, calm but cold. Then you run, and hope we're faster. Not exactly comforting. They fitted me with a tiny mic, barely visible under my collar. My heart hammered so hard I was sure it would pick up on the feed. Every move I made felt stiff, mechanical. By the time I drove to the meeting spot, a rundown gas station on the edge of town, my shirt was sticking to my back with sweat. He was already there. Darren, leaning against a dented pickup like he had all the time in the world, sunglasses hiding his eyes, grin plastered on his face. The sight of him made my skin crawl. "Hey, champ," he called out casually, like we were just two neighbors catching up. "Appreciate you showing." I forced a smile, every muscle in my body screaming. "Yeah, of course." He clapped me on the shoulder, too familiar, too confident. "Listen, I've got another car I need you to hold on to. Just for a few days. Nothing big." My stomach dropped. The voice of the younger detective buzzed faintly in my earpiece. "Keep him talking. Don't agree. Stall." I nodded slowly, trying to keep my voice even. "Another car? What's going on, Darren? You said the last one was fine." His grin twitched just for a second. "Last one? Don't worry about that. This one's clean. Totally safe. Just do me this favor and we're square." My hand shook. Square? We'd never had any kind of deal. "Look, Darren," I said carefully, I don't know if I should. Before I could finish, he leaned closer, lowering his voice. The grin was gone now, replaced by something sharper. "You've been talking to the cops, haven't you?" My blood turned to ice. Time stopped. His words slammed into me harder than any punch. "You've been talking to the cops, haven't you?" The air felt thin. My earpiece crackled faintly. One of the detectives muttering, "Don't react. Don't admit." Easy for them to say. They weren't staring down a man who could ruin me with a single move. I forced out a shaky laugh. "Cops? No, man. Why would I? You helped me out." "I'd never." His head tilted. Sunglasses hid his eyes, but I could feel him drilling straight through me. "Funny thing," he murmured. "House across the street says they saw some suits poking around yesterday, asking about me. Thought maybe you pointed them my way." My throat closed. "Don't fold. Don't fold. I don't know anything about that," I said quickly, too quickly. Darren's grin returned, but it wasn't the lazy one I was used to. This one was sharp, predatory. "Relax, champ. I'm just messing with you." He patted my shoulder again, heavy this time, like a warning. "But seriously, you're with me, right?" I nodded, my neck stiff. "Yeah, of course." "Good." He leaned back against the truck, pulling out a set of keys that jingled in his palm. "Because I got a ride that needs laying low for a bit. Out of state plates. You park it somewhere quiet. No questions, we both win." The earpiece crackled again. "Keep him engaged. Don't let him hand you those keys." My mind raced. If I refused outright, he'd know. If I took them, I'd be in deeper than ever. So I tried to stall. "Where'd you even get this one? You said it's clean, but..." That flicker crossed his face again, just for a split second. Annoyance. Suspicion. Then, without warning, he tossed the keys. They clattered against my chest before I could react. "Catch." I fumbled, barely grabbing them before they hit the ground. The detectives' voices hissed in my ear. "Don't move. Stay calm. We're moving in." But Darren wasn't calm. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a whisper only I could hear. "If I find out you're playing both sides," he said, his grin widening into something almost unhinged, "you'll regret it." And just as he said it, red and blue lights exploded across the lot. The gas station lot lit up like a war zone. Red and blue lights flashed off the grimy windows. Sirens wailed. Tires screeched as unmarked cars boxed us in. Police. Hands where we can see them. My whole body froze. The keys slipped from my hands and hit the pavement with a metallic clink. Darren didn't even flinch. He just smirked, muttering under his breath, "Told you." Then he moved, faster than I thought possible. He shoved me hard in the chest. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over the curb, while he swung himself into the driver's seat of the pickup. The engine roared to life. "Stop the vehicle!" An officer shouted, weapons raised. Darren gunned it. The truck fishtailed, tires screaming, smoke billowing as he slammed into reverse, trying to carve out a path through the flashing barricade. I hit the ground, arms over my head, heart hammering so hard I thought my ribs would split. From the pavement, I caught a glimpse of his face through the windshield. Wild grin, eyes locked on the chaos. He wasn't running. He was daring them. Shots rang out. Glass exploded. Tires shredded. The pickup jerked violently, sparks flying as the rims scraped asphalt. Darren swerved once, twice, then lost control completely. The truck skidded sideways and slammed into the side of a cruiser with a deafening crunch. For a moment, everything was still. Smoke rose from the twisted hood. Officers shouted, swarming the vehicle, yanking open the driver's door. They drag him out, cuffed and bleeding, but still laughing, a guttural, unhinged sound that made my skin crawl. Didn't even see it coming. He wheezed like this had all been some big game only he understood. An officer grabbed me by the arm, pulling me up off the ground. "You all right?" I nodded numbly, though the world was spinning. My knees shook, my ears rang, my chest felt like it might cave in. In the distance, Darren's laugh carried through the smoke and chaos. "Should have just driven. Champ," he shouted at me as they shoved him into the back of a squad car. "Could have been you and me on the road." And for the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't sure if he meant it as a threat or an invitation. The next few hours blurred together. Sirens, paperwork, endless questions. I sat in the back of a cruiser, not cuffed this time, while detectives tried to piece together Darren's trail. They found forged IDs in his wallet, a stolen laptop in the truck, even a duffel bag of cash under the passenger's seat, rubber bands still tight around the stacks. It was like his whole life had been one long scam, every detail borrowed, every move a lie. And somehow, I'd been the perfect patsy. When they finally let me go, dawn was breaking. The gas station lot was a graveyard of shattered glass and twisted metal. I drove home in silence, the city waking up around me, my hands gripping the wheel like they might never let go. Inside my house, I sat on the couch, staring at nothing. The adrenaline drained, leaving only exhaustion and a sickening realization. My life could have been ruined by a single smile and a set of keys. Later, the older detective called. Darren was facing a mountain of charges: fraud, grand theft auto, resisting arrest, possession of stolen property. "He won't see daylight for a long time," the detective said. "You're clear." Clear. The word felt hollow. I still couldn't shake the sound of Darren's laugh, echoing in my head. That grin, those casual words, "It's basically your car now." I stopped leaving my blinds open after that. I stopped chatting with neighbors, too. Every wave, every friendly smile, I questioned it. What were they hiding? What do they want? But sometimes, late at night, I'd catch myself glancing at the street, half expecting to see him leaning against another car, sunglasses reflecting the porch light, waiting for me to make another mistake. Because Darren wasn't just a neighbor. He was a reminder that one bad favor, one borrowed ride, one misplaced trust can drive your whole life straight into the fire.